All right, can everybody hear me okay? All right, so hope everybody's enjoyed the conference so far. We can talk about eating right and all that stuff, but the first thing you have to do is you have to find somebody who can produce it properly. And the biggest problem we have is between our ears, because we get in the way. We get in God's way of doing everything. Every time we do anything, we get in God's way. God's way of our marriage relationship, God's way, we get in God's way of our child-parent relationship, we get in God's way of everything that we do. So that's the number one problem. So we have to begin to understand that the things we've learned is wrong and all those sort of things. So I brought you out here to show you, this is the pasture base that we passed by on the way up the driveway. If you notice, the milk cows are out there. This is the same crop. That's actually several years older than this, so this is a little newer. But it's a perennial-based system. Everything that you see there is perennial-based, and probably if you come back in about 6 weeks from now, all those fields at the house will be grazed over at least once, and some of them we'll be working on the second time. So this path along here, we moved the chicken tractor out here about 2 weeks ago, and this is where they've been going every day. We move this chicken tractor. There's about 350 chickens on there, and look at what they do. I mean, you know, this is what it looks like before, and this is what it looks like after they've been over it. And every day we move it to a new section. We move it what we consider to be out of the area of impact. And so the area of impact is the area around the chicken tractor that they do this. They strip the grass down from the leaves and all the so one interesting thing is, so this right here is, this is chicory, and so it becomes in the reproductive stage, this is what it ends up like. But at this point, everything loves chicory, and the chickens, this is the first thing they chose to eat. And the cows will do the same thing. The cows, when we go forward, you'll see the cows on the other end, and those are the replacement heifers that end up in the milking string. So they're the mamas that are exposed to a bull out here, and they'll have their first baby and be back in the milking string in about 8 to 9 months. And it's also the steers, which is what ends up being the beef in the farm store. And so chicory actually is a weed. Most conventional farmers spray for this because it's a nuisance, because it essentially has no nutritional value whatsoever once it gets to us. When everything else is ready to be harvested, that stuff is just stems. And so it has no nutritional value. I planted it intentionally because I began to, when I tried to figure out what to plant, I looked at root systems and the animal nutrition component, and I tried to understand what things were happening, because all the magic is in the soil, because that's where the relationships between the microorganisms that are down there, the Lord put all those there, and He taught us in the Bible that the relationship is what's most important. And so we don't understand the stuff that happens under the dirt that we walk on, because we're not really smart enough to figure it out. There are over 2 million unidentified organisms in a tablespoon of dirt. We don't even begin to understand what they even do, because we haven't even identified them yet. So all that to say that the key to a healthy, vibrant ecosystem are ruminants, because we can't, you know, while this stuff looks delicious and looks like you can put a little vinegar on it and probably eat it on your plate, we can't digest it and get the nutrients out of it. It's no different than these chickens. The nutrient density that's in this is extremely high. However, we can't eat enough pounds of this because we're so small. A cow can. A cow can eat 150 pounds of this stuff a day, and they can get the nutrients out of this and convert it into steaks or hamburger, and we can eat that, and we can get the nutrients that's here by eating the cow. You know, a chicken, now the chickens love this. I don't want to get the wrong idea, and I love pastured chickens, and I love pastured pigs too. We're going to see pastured pigs before we leave here, but the simple truth of the matter is chickens and pigs are also so small that they can't get the nutrient density they need out of eating grass in order to survive and thrive like they should. So you have to feed them a supplement of corn or some sort of grain. So, but anyway, the purpose of this is so we have, at the house I have about 26 paddocks that my cows move through. So essentially I basically move them every day to a new field.
How many acres is that?
It's about 130. And so here we have there are about 50 head of cows that are at the other end of the field, and they move through this. We just got them started on it. The biggest hang-up for me as a farmer is, again, it's between my ears, because when the grass starts greening up, like everybody here that wants to get your lawnmower out and mow the grass, I want to turn the cows in here. But if you do it too early, you suffer all summer because you've set the grass back too much, and it never catches up. And so you have to wait. You have to play the waiting game. Say, can't let them out yet. I got to keep feeding them. You know, got to keep feeding them the baled hay because I can't let them out yet, and that's the biggest hang-up that we have. So this is a perennial down here. There's 13 species that I put in here when I planted this. A huge variety of things. I think there's 4 different legumes and 6 different grasses and a couple of broadleaf brassicas or forbs, whatever you want to call those. And so on the other side of the trailer over here is an annual crop. So this is actually my favorite forage to harvest and feed to cows. And the reason for that is you have starch. We're gonna get starch in the head. There's not much in there now, but there's starch in these heads, and the digestible fiber in this plant is astronomical, and it creates butterfat like you would not believe. The cows love this stuff. When it's fermented and put in a silo, they love this stuff, and it produces butterfat like crazy. It doesn't produce a lot of milk, you know, so the milk yield is not as high, but the butterfat is astronomical, and it's exceptional, and it's relatively cheap. So last summer I had soybeans in here, and about August the soybeans were still green. I came in here and broadcast this seed in here, and then I combined the soybeans in November, and this was growing, and it came up on its own. You just broadcast it in here, and because of the shade cover of the soybeans, and you get a little rain, and it would sprout, and it would be protected somewhat from the sun, and it grew by itself with no planting, no nothing. You just come out here and broadcast the seed out. And so I'll harvest this in about 2.5 weeks or so. It'll be, like I say, it'll be soft dough. What I mean by soft dough is you can find a little bit in there now, but it essentially has a dough in it. It's a little white kernel in there that's soft, and it really does well for the cows. So like I said, we have about 300 chickens here, and we move them every day. We have 2 dogs out here with them. The dogs, we have kind of a number of love-hate issues with the dogs, because they get bored out here with the chickens, so they want to wander. And so we do chain them up from time to time, but basically we have one of those electric fences, those perimeter fences that keeps them in, and they stay pretty good. And they do miss the chickens, because if they go away for a few days, they'll come for a few hours, they'll come back and hang out with the chickens because they like the chickens. But you know, everything likes chickens. So without the dogs out here, you know, the possums like chickens, coons like chickens, hawks like chickens, owls like chickens, buzzards will even eat a live chicken. They'll come and get a live chicken and run off with it. And so everything loves chickens, so we have to protect the chickens, or else we won't have any chickens. Our cows are basically 3 stages. Really, there's 4. So we got the mama cows, which is the ones that are milked every day. And so they get milked every day, and at some point about 100 days, 90 to 100 days into their lactation, they'll be bred again. And in the last trimester, then they become dry cows. So a dry cow is a cow that doesn't work at producing milk anymore. She uses all her nutrients to raise the baby. So they're actually in a separate pasture on a separate field, and that's where we keep them for the last trimester until they have their baby, and they have their baby outside usually. I mean, if it's nasty weather, Mama might choose to have them in the barn. They do have that option, but they have them out in the grass, and that works really well. So, and then we move them back. Then we move them back to the barn with their baby, and their babies stay with them for 60 days. And then we wean them at 60 days. And the reason why we chose 60 days is I originally was planning for 90 days, but with 1-wire electric fence, at 60 days, the babies begin to get an independent streak, and they like to go to the neighbor's yard, and they like to go get out in the road. And that's not as big an issue as it is the fact that Mama gets very upset that the baby is not with her and won't come when she calls. And so that gets to be a problem for the farmer who's trying to get the cows to go to the barn to milk. And so we separate them at that point, and they do well. So pastured pigs are great. I love pastured pigs. They're fun. But the problem with pastured pigs is pigs are not like cows. You cannot convince them. You can't herd them. You can't, no matter how many people you got, you can't hurt them, you can't move them, you can't do anything. You have to convince them that they want to go somewhere. Therefore, I designed that pig tractor up there based upon the principles of this chicken tractor down here. And that pig tractor up there is for the purpose of the fact that I can come out here with a bucket of milk, carry it up in that pig tractor, and the pigs all go up in there, and I can shut it up, and I can load them up or move them or do whatever I want to with them. So it's like a 10-minute job instead of 3 hours and 5 people. And getting rebaptized when you get done. Y'all can take a gander at the chickens. Again, this is a chicken house, and it's solar powered, so it has nest excluders. So at a certain time of night, it pushes the chickens out of the nest so they won't lay in there all night and poop and make the eggs dirty. And then it has doors that open and shut on a timer. So at dark, the door's shut. Has lights in it that are solar powered, and the feeder is solar powered. So everything's kind of automatic. You just set the timers on it for what time of day you want it to do different things, and it works. The biggest, like I say, the biggest issue we have is predation, and with the dogs we have a little of that. The first couple of years we had them, we had a terrible time with predation. We lost over half of our chickens. All right, so this here is an annual cover crop. And this is the very next thing I'm going to harvest. Probably on Monday, I'm going to mow this on the ground, and we'll chop it and put it in a silo next week. And so what this is, last year this was in corn silage. So we had corn planted in here, and I planted, right as soon as I got done covering a silo, I got out here and planted this stuff. And this is a 6-way cover. And so let me pull out some of the, obviously we have crimson clover in here, which y'all probably would recognize. These are turnips, and we have, we have vetch. This is vetch. And so the crimson clover and the vetch, let me see if I can find the other one down here somewhere. There's peas in here somewhere too, if I can find them. Yeah. But anyway, there's peas in here too. So there are 3 legumes. There's one cereal, which is a wheat, and then there's 2 brassicas. There's turnips and radishes in here. And so the purpose of this mix is, number one, to cover the ground. It grows really fast in the fall, and so it covers the ground, because even though we have learned a plethora of information, God sent us the Son, the S-O-N, to forgive a multitude of sins, and He sent the S-U-N so that we could be nourished properly, but only to the certain extent that we know how to manage it. And naked soil is not soil that thrives, because the sun actually cooks the microbial life. So we have to have something on the ground all the time. It has to be covered. So yeah, Heath has turnips and radishes right there. The purples are radishes and the white ones are turnips. And so the purpose of the legumes in this cover crop is to fix the nitrogen. The atmosphere is 78% nitrogen. And so we have all the nitrogen we need. We should never have to buy commercial fertilizer for nitrogen, because it's all up there in the air if we just learn how to capture it. And so when I harvest this stuff, I'm going to plant a crop of corn. I'm going to put some manure on here, and I'm going to plant a crop of corn with 0 commercial fertilizer, because you don't need it. And so, and that in itself is kind of magnificent when you've been in commercial agriculture, because they tell you got to have 200 units of nitrogen, commercial nitrogen, to grow a crop of corn. And my corn crop will be comparable to my neighbors. It probably won't be quite as good, but it'll be close. And so I'm perfectly happy with that, especially since I can work the soil biology, because the soil biology is where all the magic is at. So we do this, and the corn will be in a field generally 2 years. I have an extensive 10-year crop rotation. I'm planting more and more perennials, so at some point I'm going to be down to almost 0 acres of annuals. But I'm still going to plant some annuals, but because, like I told you down there, the root systems are so drastically different that they're mutually beneficial to each other. So you can't have the perennial gets to a spot where it just doesn't really expand anymore. And I'll put it to you like this. So every spring you get out your lawnmower and you mow the grass, and you mow the grass, twice a week in the peak season, and maybe once a week in the middle of summer, and then you get down to where you don't mow it but every 3 or 4 weeks. Well, the grass, we think of grass as an inanimate object. The grass is used to the lawnmower injury, so it grows enough root system to recover from that injury. If you decide one day that you're going to see how bad you can piss your neighbors off or your homeowners association, and you let that grass grow knee high, and you put goats in there, that's a different injury to the grass. The grass doesn't know what to do with that, so it expands its root system to help itself recover from a different injury. And if you've done the same thing again and you turn chickens in there, then you again have the grass has sustained a different kind of injury, and so it expands its root system again. And the more the root system expands, the more nutrients we get in the stuff that's growing above the earth. You know, and it's the same with everything. So if all you have is cows, well, the grass gets used to the cow injury, and it comes to a certain point where it just kind of reaches a plateau of biological activity, and it doesn't go any further. When you add chickens to the mix, that's a different injury. When you add pigs to the mix, that's a different injury. So if you mow it some, if you crop it, you know, once every 5 years, and then you put the cows on it, then you put the chickens on it, and then you put the pigs on it, I mean, we have unlimited potential to get just exponential amount of nutrient density in this stuff because we continue to expand the root system. And like I say, there are 2 million unidentified objects in a tablespoon of soil. We are barely scratching the surface of understanding what's happening down here. And that's exciting. Okay, well, we're going to travel on, and we'll go slow by the pigs. Y'all can look at the pigs up here in the pig tractor, and then we'll go on back to the barn. All right, so I stopped here because I wanted y'all to see the difference between what the cows will be eating, which is down here, and what they have ate. So this is kind of, as Joel Salatin says, is salad bar. However, they don't pick everything. They don't eat everything, and you can't make them eat everything. You know, the cows have been in this 3 days, and so that's about what you want, because what you get after 3 days is the cows begin to re-eat some of the stuff that's growing back, and you don't want that because that's detrimental to the grass. So 3 days is kind of the magic number. Really, you need to move them more often than that. Of course, we had this field cut up in a couple different places, so we didn't give them all of it at once, but they've been in this one little strip for 3 days. Tonight they'll be going, he's going down there to move the fence. They'll be moving over to the next strip down. And that, like I say, they'll walk through this. It'll take them about 3 days in each field. I sized them that way because that's really the optimum for a guy that doesn't want to work all the time. I mean, I already work too much, as most of my friends and neighbors will tell you. I work too much already, but at some point I like to go to the house. I don't want to be out here all the time. But it's important for us to, for y'all. I think it's important for y'all to recognize what the grass, looks like after the cows have been on it, and what they're going to eat, going forward. And so on the other side we have perennial as well, and it's actually a new establishment. So I planted it last fall, and the cows will be going on it at some point too. It's still a little too early for it. I'm a little paranoid about getting much traffic on it until it gets well established. It's pretty well established now, but I'm just waiting to make sure I don't do damage to it by putting them on there too early. The cows we have here, we have Guernseys and Jerseys and Holsteins, and we have crossbreeds, all three of those. So I'm trying to do a three-way cross. So each of those breeds have their own benefits, and each of those three breeds also have their aggravations. So I'm trying to kind of do a mixture of the three to try to get the primo cow that works well out here in the grass. We have only A2 cows here. Everything is A2, and so those of you who know of anything about A2 are well aware of what that is. If you don't, just a quick short lesson on that is, so in the 18 teens, like 1812-ish, somewhere in there, I'm going to get the year wrong, but they had a volcanic eruption in Asia, and it blacked out the sky, and they had snow in July in Europe. And because they essentially had no photosynthesis that year, every calf that was born that year dropped the A2 gene. And it's not breed specific. A lot of people say it's just the Holsteins. No, it's not breed specific. However, when we began to AI breed in the 1950s, we started doing that, and a lot of times if you trace back the AI genetics in anything, whether it's horses or cows or pigs or whatever, you find 2 or 3 family lines, and that's it. And so there's where our A1 come from. And so we, anyway, to fast forward, the physical differences between A1 and A2 milk is the fact that and I'm gonna get these numbers wrong, but the 7th chain, the 27th amino acid or link is missing. And so that makes us think we're lactose intolerant when actually we're not. our body just doesn't know how to do with it because it's incomplete amino acids. And so our body doesn't know how to digest that. The A2 is complete. And so our body knows exactly what to do with that. And so it's complete food, it's complete how nature intended it to be. Like I say, it's a freak of nature. It just happened because there was no photosynthesis. And again, it's the SUN because it's the provider of everything. The SON provides for us, and so is the SUN. So